Hello and welcome to the Black Rose Garden. So there's a new item in 3.24 Necropolis League. And it's called Nevalius Inheritance. This is a unique that you can get from grave crafting, but literally nobody uses it, nobody wants it, and it's like a 1 chaos unique. And it's not hard to see why this item's not popular. It basically gives no stats except for 2 mods that changes your flasks depending on your level. So at low levels it gives increased flask duration and reduced effect, and at high levels it gives reduced flask duration and increased effect. So at level 100 you would have 50% reduced flask duration and 40% increased flask effect. The most popular belt in the game is obviously Mage Blood, and another really popular one is Tides of Time, and both of them are basically good because they increase the uptime of your flasks, with Mage Blood obviously giving permanent uptime. So in effect, like this belt, which gives 50% reduced flask duration, is really bad for endgame characters. But I like to play around and test with new uniques that come out every league. So I looked at this and I thought if there was ever a time that this belt could be used, it would have to be for leveling, because the increased flask duration at the early levels is actually pretty good, because when your level is really low, the mob density is also really low, so you'll gain flask charges slower, meaning you would want the increased flask duration. As you level up, the mob density and number of packs increases, and you also have a stronger build to kill mobs faster. So you're more okay with having less flask duration, and you trade that for increased effect. Now let's talk about some synergies with this belt. The big one that I thought of is Replica Sorrow of the Vine. If you read the unique explicit mods on this flask, none of them actually scale with flask effect, so they have no penalty with the reduced flask effect. And plus, Eldritch Battery is one of the most insane keystones you can get, so getting 100% uptime on this flask would basically just solve all of your mana issues. I know I play Witch, so taking Eldritch Battery is not that big of a deal, but you can run this combination for any class, especially the ones that are really far away from Eldritch Battery on the passive tree. Of course, in order to run Eldritch Battery, you will need Energy Shield, and surprisingly, all of the good leveling uniques actually don't have any Energy Shield. So you have 2 options. You can either use a Crown of Thorns, which is level 1 unique that gives basically 200 Energy Shield. You don't need the Corruption implicit. Or you can put on a Light of Lunaris. The shield is generically good for spell builds anyway, but it also gives about 200 Energy Shield. That's about the amount of Energy Shield you need, where the Energy Shield recharge will be able to comfortably sustain your Energy Shield. But even if you don't want to use one of these 2 items to get Energy Shield, you can actually get away with less Energy Shield because of the first mod on Replica Sorrow of the Vine, which is Life Recovery from Flask, also apply to Energy Shield. So if you get an instant Life Flask, every time you press your Life Flask, it'll instantly refill your Energy Shield, and I'll show you that in a bit. Now, before I do a quick showcase, let me talk about the advantages of this setup. Obviously, Eldritch Battery solves all your mana problems, so you don't need to worry about maximum mana or mana recovery or regen on your gear or on your passive tree. And Eldritch Battery also allows you to reserve all of your mana, so even if I take no reservation efficiency, I can reserve 250% auras. You also get the quality of life of never having to use or click a mana flask, and there's also the quality of life where you don't need to run like triple Quicksilver flask and have to manually click them, since you can run 1 Quicksilver flask and you'll have 100% uptime on it, even though it's slightly reduced effect. The Replica Sorrow of the Divine has a level requirement of 27, but I do my gear swap at level 30, and at that point you only have 30% reduced effect and 90% increased duration. So I would say the 30% reduced effect is worth not having to manually press like 3 Quicksilver flasks. Lastly, you do need to have 2 Replica Sorrow of the Vines. One that's used when charges reach full, so this is your automatically sustain one. And then in rare situations, such as when you're bossing, you'll need a second one that you press manually. And when you enter a new zone, your flasks all get turned off, so this one will probably get turned off, and it sometimes doesn't have enough charges left over to activate again, so that's another reason why you need the second one. Because you use the second one so rarely, you can use Enkindling Orbs on it, and you can actually get either maximum charges, increased durations, or reduced charges used. All three options basically double the amount of time you can use this flask, or doubles the duration, unless you hit a perfectly rolled 60 to maximum charges, which I got lucky with, and then you can use this flask 3 times instead of 2 without gaining any charges. So for like bosses. Now let me show you what this looks like in a zone. I'm in Act 4, going to Act 5, so I'm just going to keep going. The beginning of a zone. Oh, you can also very comfortably run automation and call to arms, which I do. So you just press your replica star of the vine, and then you can keep going. And you can look at the flask, and you'll never be run out. You won't never be even close. Although this zone has pretty good density. But even in a lot worse density zone, you'll have no problem sustaining.
I need more mana.
And if you saw right there, I was running out, so I just pressed my life flask and it instantly refilled. And that's it. I can show you spamming cremation, so you don't run out of mana even when you do that. And let's say you don't want to run the setup, so I'll use this as an example. I only have 100 energy shield, so this way you do run out of energy shield, and as soon as I run out, I can press my life flask and it'll instantly refill, if you see that. So if you have low energy shield, or you consume too much mana even for this setup to sustain, then you still don't have any problems at all. So yeah, I guess there is some use for this item, and that's it. Thanks for watching.